I am a fool. That is one thing for certain.
My name is Brian Curtis, and I'm the founder of Decentralized Systems. And today I have Holistic Heather, Healer Heather. I like that, the way you put that together on your profile pic. Holistic Healer Heather with us today. I talked to you a little bit a couple weeks ago and got to know you a little bit. So let us know what you're doing and how you got there.
Yeah, so I am a holistic energy healer and a life coach. And my area of expertise is around breaking toxic patterns that can form when you go through, painful events like trauma, or you end up having, kind of extreme anxiety. It can cause toxic patterns like codependency, people pleasing. Just these are just a couple of good examples that I work with and I had myself. So I work on my area of expertise is kind of figuring out how the trauma or how the anxiety or things affected you. And so we don't heal what you went through, right? We don't work on healing like your experiences, because we can't really change that, but we take a look at like how it affected you, like how it's affecting your day-to-day life, how it's causing you to make decisions in your life, or how it's causing certain attractions to certain people, creating certain experiences. And we change like small little things like daily habits, or the way you kind of talk to yourself, or the way that you think about yourself or the world, so that you can change the trajectory of the direction you're moving in, and that you're no longer kind of affected by those past triggers or those memories, and you learn how to kind of work through the pain and see it differently, so it's not bogging you down or causing that anxiety or that brain or those toxic connections that it could be currently causing for you, if that makes sense. um, so how I kind of got there was, I had, of course, kind of throughout my life experienced different trauma as a child, and some extreme, some just normal, crap like parents fighting, divorce, my mom not being in great relationships, these kind of things. And then leading into my teenage and young adult, like ending up in relationships that might have been kind of abusive verbally or physically. So nothing like some extreme stuff, but most of it I swept under the rug for a long time. My dad died. He passed away unexpectedly when I was 20 years old, and that kind of, I didn't realize it when he died, but that was kind of the start of like, I don't know how I can handle much more of like something going wrong before like something happens or changes. Thankfully, I was married at the time, so my husband had gotten me through his passing. Because if I wouldn't have had my husband, I'm not really sure where I would be, if I would even really be here, because I was struggling really intensely with suicidal thoughts and depression right before he passed, and right before I got married. But with getting married, I was starting to feel a little bit better, and things seemed like they were going up. And then my dad died, and then so not long after he died, I was kind of, I had always known that I wanted to be a mother, but it kind of, when he died, it kind of sped my want up a little bit, I guess. Like I had a void that I wanted to fill with his departure. So me and my husband almost immediately decided to have a baby, and I got pregnant. And as soon as I got pregnant, things went terrible. Things went so like backwards. Like I had no idea. Like I thought that this was like the love of my life. I thought he was like my perfect person. And at the time, don't get me wrong, but when I got pregnant, that person that I thought I knew started to fade. That person was just no longer that person, and they were doing things that was not like themselves. And and it's such an odd and strange experience, but thankfully today I am thankful for it. But it really messed me up. I was only 21 at the time, so I was very young and naive. And so when my daughter, so during the pregnancy, there was just a lot of distance. There was a lot of things being hid from me. There was a lot of betrayal. There was a lot of lying. And then when my daughter, when she was about 4 months old, I was struggling really hard with postpartum depression, because like I didn't have my dad, my husband. I didn't know what the heck he was doing. I didn't know if he loved me anymore, if he was cheating on me, or like what was happening, because so distant, and I could just intuitively feel like he was just lying or keeping something from me. And he wrote me a note telling me that he was transitioning into a woman, and he had been transitioning into a woman my entire pregnancy. And I didn't realize it. Like when I went back, hindsight's 2020, when my dad died, I saw the signs of him getting sick and about to have a heart attack, but they weren't big enough until it happened for me to realize that they were happening. Same with that kind of experience with my husband. I saw signs that he was transitioning, but it wasn't, I guess, big enough for me to put it into the equation that he wants to be a woman kind of
Wow.
thing. It wasn't like, it didn't make any sense to me. So it was really hard for me to experience this transition of him, because I'd kind of put him in my father's placeholder. So it felt like I had lost my dad, and then I had lost the only other man in my life. And it's like that father figure, or that male figure in my life, had just been completely crumbled and destroyed. And it just felt like my husband, but it was almost worse, ever existed. And that existence was just not even real. Fallen in love with a complete stranger. And now I've got this person living in my house. I have a child with them. I literally lose my mind for, I'm telling you, probably 6 months, a year after that, I just went crazy. And this is the first year of my daughter's life. I literally lost my mind, and I was not able to be a present mother. So on top of that, I've got that mom guilt of, I'm screwing this kid up. I'm not being there for her.
Oh yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't be the mom that I'm meant to be. Like, I should just give her to someone better than me. Like, of course, thankfully I didn't, but it was hard. I went through I hit an extreme rock bottom. And on top of that, I friends that I was confiding in, and they ended up kind of betraying me in their own ways at that time. So inevitably, I ended up all alone. And like, I had no best friends, I had no boyfriend, no husband, no nothing, no parental help, familia help. It was just me and my daughter. And I was so afraid to be alone, but I finally reached a breaking point where I was afraid to let someone else into my life than I was to be alone. And I'm thankful I got to that rock bottom, because it was in that rock bottom of fearing other people more than me just being alone with myself, that I had to face my codependency problems. I had to start asking myself these questions, like, how did I end up, and how the hell experience all of this? And thankfully, it kind of led me to asking, like, those questions kind of just led me down different paths. And the first path that led me down was meditation. And I started to realize, like, I might be attracting these experiences because I don't think I'm very worthy of love, or I don't really think I'm actually supposed to exist, just because my mom didn't actually really want me. Like pregnancy wise, like she was older and she had already had a child, but she had me because my dad didn't have any kids, and she was an alcoholic, and she would tell me these things when she would get drunk as a child. And so I grew up just feeling like I wasn't even supposed to be here, and that I wasn't, like, I was stupid and just different things. I didn't feel adequate, or I didn't feel, like I belonged, or like I was wanted in any way. So I really, in that meditation journey, I really had to and in that journey of like figuring out why I wanted to figure things out, like figure my humanness out and my experience out, I realized that was like one of the first things that I needed to address. And I needed to find my own reason to feel worthy, my own reason to feel like I belong. And it was in that journey, it led me to become the meditation instructor that I am. I got down to the path of energy healing. So now I'm a Reiki master. And then I was really guided to go back to school to be a health and a life coach, so that I could take the tools that I created using meditation and shadow work in my own ways, that really made it super simple and easy for me to unlock the tools of my mind. And I put it into a program where I could make it unique and customizable to anyone who wanted to use it. So, and that's where my program was born. So
Wow.
it was a long journey, and I know that was a mouthful, but
I don't know how many times I wanted to stop you and ask a question, but I just let you keep going, right? I'm not gonna stop you. I'm just gonna let you go. So the first question I got that I should have asked you before I even asked the first question is, did you make the flower and that picture behind you? It looks like it was hand drawn. It looks amazing.
yeah, so I did not make it. I actually bought it off of Amazon. It's a tapestry.
Okay.
But it's so funny. It's so I love that you asked this question. Most of the time when I'm interviewed or I do something, a lot of people ask me about this tapestry, and there's actually a huge significant meaning behind it.
Okay.
So this tapestry was one of the first things that I purchased when I was completely alone. Because one of the things that I realized when I was completely alone, that everything that I had decided in my life, even down to my favorite color, I chose because of what I thought my friend or my boyfriend or society was going to be okay with, not because of it was what I wanted. So I literally basically took everything that I had in my home from when I was with my husband, and I threw it all out. I got rid of it. I sold it. I donated it. I did whatever I needed to do. And I started with a blank space. And this was actually one of the first purchases that I bought. I was like, this feels like me. This doesn't feel like my best friend. This doesn't feel like my boyfriend. This feels like me. And so I bought it and I put it up in my room, and I was just so ecstatic when I had it. And then along the way, I got this like probably a year or so before I even started my business. And along my journey of like my own healing, I realized like the yin and the yang is actually very significant, because in order for me to become whole within myself, I had to find my light, and I also had to be okay with my dark. So actually feel whole and feel complete and feel confident in myself and love myself and accept myself fully. So the sunflower is kind of like my personality, my vibe. And then the yin and the yang is like the becoming whole again that my program helps other people to do. So this is actually my logo of my business.
Nice.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I love
Second
it.
question. Is that what kind of tie-dye shirt are you wearing? It looks like a sweatshirt. Is it a
It is
hoodie?
a hoodie. It's a
Okay.
hoodie. Got rainbow colors, and then on the back it's got the chakra symbols.
Oh, cool. It looked like
Yeah.
something like that. So I was like, I gotta ask her about her sweatshirt. I gotta ask her about the picture finder. So yeah. And so I had a bunch of questions during that whole spiel, but I guess I could probably sum it up best by and this is something you didn't really cover, but at what point, I think we talked about it a little bit last time I talked to you, but at what point did you realize that maybe from a higher perspective that everything that you had gone through was to help you prepare you to what you were actually doing now so that you
Yeah.
can help people get out of that space? Is that something you came into awareness of,
So
after you started building your product and all that, or when did that happen?
so it was kind of something that built up over time, because before I became a coach, I actually owned my own salon. So I was doing hair, and my clients got to be in my space, all everything, right? Like, the easiest part about it is when I opened my salon, this was back in June of whatever year. I can't even remember what year at this moment, but it was in June. I remember the month. And then I did it with my dad. I opened everything up. I put new floors, painted, remodeled, brought everything in with my dad, opened the salon. I think June 25th. And then my dad died 2 weeks later.
Okay.
So literally all of my clients watched me go through the passing of my father, watched me like through my pregnancy and being confused about how my husband was acting and being nervous about becoming a mom, to having extreme postpartum depression, to literally finding out that my husband was transitioning into a woman. And they literally watched all of that happen. And right before I closed my salon down, and I'll tell you, I closed my salon down before I even knew like I was going to coach. I closed it down because I just realized that I wasn't even doing hair because I wanted to. I did it because it was like the most acceptable creative thing that society would be okay with. And I was just like, this isn't what I want to do. I was like, I've got to leave here. Like, I love all of you guys. Like, what I realized was it's not the hair that I like doing, it's the connections with the people that I enjoyed the most, you know?
Yeah.
So I started when I shut everybody out, that was the same, that was in a month of October after I had my daughter and after all of that stuff had happened. And by December of that same year, I closed my salon down. So in that 2-month period, I literally was just saying how like the answer to all your problems is in here. I didn't have a clue what I was talking about. I didn't have a clue what I was talking about the answers to all your problems are being in your mind. And I would just soapbox this to my clients. I wasn't even getting their hair done because I was like looking at them. I was like, you have to look me in the eye and you have to understand that you are in control of this life. And they're like, what the hell
And
is
they're
this
getting
girl
out of there.
talking
Help
about?
me, get me out of here.
They are just like watching me go from being actively crazy and in pain to like being actively crazy that you are in control of your pain and like fixing it and all these things.
Right.
So it was a slow process, but I don't know that there was a pivotal point necessarily that told me I went through everything that I went through so that I can do what I'm doing today. It just kind of over time made sense in that manner. It just made sense like, oh, I went through this and now I love it. I love when challenges come my way and because like I'll face them right now automatically and I'm just like, oh, I can't wait to go teach this in groups in my group this week, you know, like I can't wait to say how I got through this because I just get excited about it because like I know that this is what I'm meant to do. I'm so good at reframing and seeing things the way that I feel the divine wants us to see it. And I can teach that in a way that's super simple, in a way that people can relate to and resonate with and see it for themselves. And so it wasn't like one specific moment. It was just a buildup of me reviewing my life experiences and learning from them and finding ways to teach those learnings and those lessons and teach other people how to see the same types of lessons in their own personal experiences. It was just kind of the combination of the experience all together.
Yeah.
It was just
That's a
like,
perfect example of what happened.
what?
Oh, I thought you said something happened to your screen. Every once in a while, you kind of jump around. I think maybe it's your connection. I just saw your hands go
Yeah, it
from
might be
here to
my
here.
connection. It might be my connection. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. So yeah, I was just gonna say it's always such a blessing to realize that you're doing something that it's maybe seemed negative at the time, but then it becomes this blessing later. It's like, oh,
yes,
I had to go through all that just because this is what I made to do and this is what I love doing, right? So
yeah, exactly.
it just makes much more sense after you see it like that. Yeah.
Yes.
So I had one other question, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, and you didn't notice that your husband was transitioning into a woman. And what I mean, I don't want to get like too like interpersonal, but I mean, did he just stop being interested in you completely, or was it just
so here's the thing. He wanted to be a woman, but he wanted to be a woman that was with women. So it wasn't that he wasn't interested in me anymore. It's just he didn't want to be the man. He wanted to be a woman in the relationship. So here's the thing. I did know something was wrong during the pregnancy. So here's what happened. The way it was presented to me was giving me the reasons to try to hold on to the man that he was. Okay. So he was growing his hair out.
Lost your dad and you were trying to hang on to him for that reason. Yeah.
Right. So he was growing out his hair. He was having me color his hair. And eventually throughout the pregnancy, he was showing interest in me. Like, so here's another problem. I had never been with a man before my husband. I had only ever been with women. So his curiosity in feminine things during the pregnancy, which that curiosity didn't happen until I was pregnant. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know if it was normal. I didn't know, like, I thought I was just trying to be supportive. Like, I didn't care if he wanted to try makeup or try a woman's clothes on. Like, hindsight, like I said, was 2020, like it makes so much sense. Like, duh, of course he was just trying to like, what's the word? Like, uh, when someone is kind of just like pushing you into something like lightly. I don't know what that's, there's a word, there's a term for that. Like most people use it like around narcissists, like they try to like push you into something, they coerce you into something and they make you
Right.
think it's all fine and fun, but it's not, they're lying to you. So
But yeah,
I was,
relationships can get super complicated. That's why I'm always interested in all the little idiosyncrasies that happen, especially when something like that happens, because somebody's changing their identity, right? And
literally,
they're
yeah.
changing the way they view themselves. So you're having to deal with somebody who's changing the way they view themselves, and you're probably having to look at yourself and say, okay, so how am I viewing myself, right? At the same time. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
super interesting.
It was the craziest experience. And then yeah, so I would ask, you know, like he would try to dress this way. And I would think that he just, because he would tell me that he had these curiosities as a kid, but he was beaten for them.
Okay.
And I was like, well, I want you to try everything. You know, I'm super open to like all kinds of things. I still want you to, as long as you're my husband and you're this, you know, I don't care what you do or what you wear or try. Like that wasn't the thing. But then when he kept trying it, I thought it would be like one of these things where it's like he tries it once and he's like, you know, weird. What's the hype?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
kind of like me, I went to California to see what the hype about Hollywood was, and I was like, I don't need to do that again, you know. But like, no, it wasn't that. That wasn't the case. He tried it because he had been trying it his entire life, and he didn't find anybody who would accept it until me.
Right.
And now, granted, I didn't accept it like the full blown. I would accept the bits and pieces or the flow of it, but I couldn't accept like I couldn't accept it until we were separated that it had happened. But in the middle of it, just trying to live with it and be okay with it, that wasn't like, I just felt like I was living with a dead person that like totally lied to me about their existence.
Yeah.
And I see it a little bit differently now, right? You know, that I've kind of reevaluated and I've tried to understand and forgive and be grateful for the situation. But in the heart of it, I literally felt that way. And it was even harder because I had never been with men and I had only ever been with women. Everybody was like, oh, are you okay with that? Is he doing it for you? And I'm like, no, like nobody is supporting me. Nobody understands why I'm so upset. They think that
Yeah.
I'm the one who made him do it. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like, no, like I'm completely happy with his maleness, like and his masculineness, and he doesn't want it anymore. Like what?
Yeah. So you decided that you still wanted a guy. That was the end of the story there.
Yeah, I still wanted to be with. I still wanted to be with the man that I thought I had married, you know. But now that I've changed so much, like I'm a completely different person than the person I was who married that man anyway. So this version of me wouldn't want that man either. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? So I was a broken version of me and he was a broken version of him and
Right.
we worked, but I'm not, I don't feel broken anymore. And I hope that she, now that she is herself, that she doesn't feel broken anymore. And I'm grateful that I could have helped her finally step into what she wanted to be, even if it took her this late in life to do it. You know, I am grateful, and you know, we're on our own separate paths, and I hope that she feels complete now that she's got this. But I know that I have found myself, and I am no longer my broken version. So the man, the woman, it wouldn't have mattered. That was just a stepping stone for both of us to become who we were truly meant to be. You
Right.
know.
Yeah, and a lot of us feel, you kind of master both types of energy too, right? I
Yeah.
mean, all of us have this masculine, feminine energy,
Yeah.
and at
Exactly.
times you're embodying more than the other, right? I
Yeah.
mean, when I'm in creative mode, I'm in my masculine, I'm sitting there building stuff. But if you never get out of that building phase, and I found myself, going through that a lot recently,
Yeah.
I need to pull myself back into my feminine energy and start receiving more and just creating this magnet to where I'm receiving.
Right.
So, thinking about it that way, would you say that maybe you were just kind of you were in your masculine a lot more back then, and maybe you attracted somebody who was in their feminine energy a lot more and didn't realize it at the same time?
I think I was probably definitely my feminine needed to be healed dramatically during my healing journey. So, considering I have always been a get it done, create kind of person, I had also never really been in the receiving energy. So yeah, I would definitely say my masculine energy was way higher. But I do think that there is a difference between masculine and feminine energy being in use or being balanced, or one being more than the other, because it's then to completely change your gender. I had been in my masculine. My mother is extremely masculine, but she
Mhm.
doesn't want to be a man.
Right.
I've never wanted to be a man. You know
She's
what I'm
never
saying?
told
Like,
you anyway, right? I mean,
do what?
she's never told you that anyway.
Yeah, she's never told me, and she's never given me any reason to believe
Yeah.
that she wants to be a man.
Yeah.
So even though she's very masculine, I don't think just because you live in one energy or another, it's going to persuade you to be the opposite gender in
Right.
any type of form.
Yeah.
I think that that's a completely different phenomenon or something else that because I don't want to be the opposite sex, I don't quite understand it. So, you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
I could talk about this subject forever, as far as like, because thinking about past lives, it makes you wonder, okay, was I a man or a woman in a past life? Because, and then you imagine what it would be like to be the opposite sex, but you don't necessarily want to be the opposite sex, right? It's like, what would it be like for me to be a woman for a day, and walk around as a woman, and vice versa, right? Somebody,
Yeah.
woman, what would it be like to walk around for a guy for a day? And different ways of thinking. I've thought about that for years, right?
Yeah.
And what motivates us, for thinking that way. So I don't think there's any right or wrong. It's just everybody's just kind of on their own journey, right? Of trying
Yeah.
to figure out who they are, right?
Yeah.
Be
Exactly. Exactly.
that be yourself in a unique way. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I got one more question for you. I didn't realize how much time had gone by already, but I think I could talk to you forever. You have a lot of energy. I love talking to you. So just give us one example, of maybe your favorite story, maybe along that journey, or maybe a childhood story, or any kind of story you want. Maybe it could be a life-changing story. It could be anything.
So, I think my story that I wanted to tell, if you hadn't asked me about the tapestry, I was going to share that story with you. But since we had already talked about that, the other story that had been on my mind since we last talked that I feel called to share about my journey was it was just a pivotal moment, and it's one of my favorite stories because it was the first time that even though it's kind of, it feels like a sad story, it's one of my most happiest memories because it was like my wake up call. So after I had started to close my wall, like build walls and not let anybody in, I was actually struggling with the use of marijuana, and I know that that might sound crazy to some people, but I was heavily leaning on it. Like I was smoking it consistently, like throughout the day, like every 20 minutes to an hour. And because I could not physically handle my emotions or my anxiety, and it wasn't necessarily that it was helping me, it was just helping distract me or numb it a little bit.
Yeah.
So I was in this process, and one day I put my daughter down and I had smoked, and my heart started to palpitate very strangely, and I got this instant feeling that my dad died from a heart attack, and I just got this flash of your heart is going to fail if you don't take care of the stress that you're under. And like I said, this was the very beginning. And so I could feel my body and my health were starting to shut down. And I got this really loud message, and it was my wake up call. It was like, if you've got a choice. It told me you have a choice. You can let your daughter watch you die, or you can let your daughter watch you get up and be better. And I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know how I was going to do it. But like I said, I had struggled so hard with suicidal thoughts my entire life. This was the first time that I actually was presented with life as if it was a choice that I had to live. And it was for the first time in my life that I actually wholeheartedly chose to live. and wanted to make the best of it. And that was like the start of my journey. It was the pivotal point, and it was the start of my connection to the divine. And I just know that my dad had everything to do with me making sure that I didn't matter how the spirit realm or the other dimensions got that message to me. I know my dad played such a big part in making sure I heard and understood and did what I needed to do to receive that message and change my outcome. So that was just something that's been very special to me. And I think the lesson out of that story that I want to share is, if you're getting messages like this, just if you can ask any questions. Like, so here's the thing. I didn't know how I was going to get better or do better or feel better, right? So I started asking. So they told me this, right? The spirit or whoever told me this, and I just started saying, well, what do I do? How do I do it? And they guided me, because I genuinely believed that they would. And I just waited for them to show me the way. And I was guided to my schools. I was guided to mentors. I was guided to colleagues and friends and people that were like a soul tribe. I was guided in that direction just because I asked for the direction. You don't have to know the direction. You don't have to know what to do. Just ask, and you will be shown if you give it the chance to be revealed. Kind of like stepping into that feminine and just let yourself receive.
Yeah.
Step back, stop trying to control the situation, just ask and allow yourself to be led to what's right for you. So
That's
that
a really
was
good message, and that also connects you with your higher self. Because, I just had this conversation with one of my good friends yesterday. And somebody advised her, say, yeah, if you're ever feeling anxious or if you have a lot of anxiety, just spend some time in prayer, and ask what you need. Because, that it allows you to connect with your higher self. All of
Yes.
us have this same highest self sitting up there. That's this infinitely wise thing that's guiding us, even if we don't realize it. And if you can connect with that and just allow it to, guide you, like you said, it's just going to pull you in a direction that's better for you towards it. Right.
Yeah, exactly. And now I have something coming to me that I feel I need to share. In my beginning of my journey, I tried to tell myself, I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm not capable. I don't know how. I'm telling you, if you can just ask yourself the opposite. If you believe that you can't meditate, or if you believe that you can't pray, or if you believe you can't blah, 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 whatever, right? Be guided, connect to your higher self, whatever your idea that you can't do, ask yourself, okay, I might feel that I can't do it, but how can I? Right? How can I figure it out? Right? If you get, so let's say you ask how to change your life or how to be better, and you get inspiration, meditate more, connect to your higher self, whatever the divine or whoever gives you a message, you get that inspiration, and then you try to say, but I can't do that. I can't do that. You try to say you're not capable. Say, okay, I feel like I can't, right? Acknowledge that, but can you show me how I can? That's the next question you ask. You just keep following it with questions until you get the right answer that helps you open up and figure out the step that you're supposed to take.
Yeah.
That becomes easy, that becomes capable.
Yeah, even if it
will
takes
show
a
you.
week or two, eventually be like, oh man, they've been telling me that this whole time.
Yeah, it does. It does take some
Yeah.
time. It can take a week or a few weeks. But if you just stay consistent in asking the question that is leading you to the answer of which you are trying to figure out, it will unfold and it will come your way.
I think we can end there, right? I mean, how can you get better advice than that, right?
Right.
Because I mean, that's kind of the motivation behind everything. I mean, just, okay, I don't know what to do. Tell me what to do. Right. If you don't believe, even if you don't believe you can do something, okay, well then tell me how that I can believe how to do something.
Yeah. How can I believe? How can I genuinely believe that I'm capable?
Yeah. Okay. Love you, Heather. This was an awesome interview. Hope everybody enjoyed this one. I enjoyed it. Yeah. So we'll keep in touch, right?
Yeah. Yeah.